Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today, we're going to have some real interesting conversations about parenting, about a whole bunch of different things that we're going to be there about creating champions and what that means and what a champion is. So bring on my friend Bonnie. How are you doing today, Bonnie?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much. I love being here.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell them, who you are and how'd you get here?
Well, I'm Bonnie Liotta, and how did I get here? Gosh, it's been a journey of perseverance, of obstacles.
What a wild, strange ride, right? The
Yeah,
Grateful Dead.
wild ride. I saw a Raggedy Ann and Andy once in a store, and it was Raggedy Ann to riches, and I was like, I need that doll, Raggedy Ann to riches. That's me. It's been a trial.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's what it is. That's one of the things we love talking about on the podcast. It's not, hey, I woke up, I got a silver spoon, and life is grand. It's how to move through those things, and parenting. When I saw your profile about parenting, man, I know it almost killed me in a lot of ways because you're not given. I mean, part of the things that I've always talked about is they don't give you a guide how to do everything, right? Life isn't there really isn't a life manual. The same thing with parenting. Our parents are growing up, or we're growing up as we're raising children.
Yeah.
It is hard.
It is especially hard when you're given a dull axe for tools and asked to go chop down a forest and then told to just be patient and calm as your kids tear apart your house.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's tough. I have two girls, and I'm like, man, some of my and it's funny. It depends on what I guess sex or gender somebody has. Because I have friends who have boys and they're like, "Oh, that's horrible." Like, what's horrible? I go, so if the worst thing that you're complaining about is that they don't pick up their socks and things like that, that ain't the worst thing, and then on the girl side, there's a lot of other things that I'm like, really, that doesn't bother me. Like, to me, I you got through the teenage years. I'm proud of myself. They're 20, they're 21 and 20 and 23. I'm glad that they still talk to me at times.
Yeah, well, there's a whole track running right now where parents are leaving their or children are leaving their parents and never talking to them again, and the parents are left going, "Well, why?" They don't even know why. So hopefully we can bring some answers today.
Yeah, well, I'd love to have your opinion about that since you brought that topic up because there's a lot of times my daughter, goes back and forth between my house and her mom's house, and there's times I'm like, "What did I do?" And she's like, "Nothing." It's just their focus seems to be a little bit different, right? So their focus is really on them versus, you know, on a family connections and things like that. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't think about it. I'm like, you're on your phone all the time. I texted you. Yeah, I didn't think about it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I grew up a very disempowered child. I remember from the age of 3, I couldn't sing and I was never fast enough or never smart enough. I think my mom always wanted me to be better, and the way she went about it just kind of made me feel like I was a nobody and I was never going to be anybody because I wasn't a straight A student or anything like that. Lots of adversity. House burned down when I was 6, brought
Oh,
us back
wow.
to poverty. My stepdad was in a plane crash when I was 11. So I was an 11-year-old running a household. My mom was very young. She had me at the age of 16. So she just did the best she could with what she knew. But I really remember this, my mom running through the house going, Dr. Spock says I can't beat you anymore. How do I just get you to listen to me? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm 7. So I didn't have the answers and she didn't have the answers. And so we grew up in opposition. And when I became an adult and doing the work I do, and I told her there was something called oppositional defiant disorder, she goes, You're oppositional defiant disorder. And I just shake my head because in my mind, I was just always Bonnie and I was always just kind and I just wanted to be loved and seen for who I was. And it just seemed like I never was. Kicked out of the house at 15, got pregnant, teenage pregnancy. So when you grow up as a teenager and you have the seed of unworthiness inside, you do a lot of stupid things looking for love. So I got through that, got into my early 20s, answered an ad in the newspaper that said, no education and no experience required. And I said, oh, that's me.
There you go.
So I'm going to go. And I went and applied for this job and I was all excited. And I showed up for training and there was this torn apart vacuum cleaner. And I was like, okay, there's a vacuum cleaner. And anyway, I ended up on a van the next Monday and we're driving out to middle of nowhere. I'm like, where are we going? Well, we're going to go sell vacuum cleaners. Well, who are we going to sell to? We're going to go knock doors. And I'm thinking, oh, we're going to knock doors. And so my very first experience at being a salesperson was running around for half a day, minus 20, ice cold snow in Alberta, pretending to knock on doors because I was terrified to just take the first step.
Mm,
And I think that's important because 2 hours later, everybody else was in a house selling a vacuum cleaner, and I'm still pretending to knock on doors and I'm freezing. So I thought to myself, what if I just took the first step and just knock on the door? And so I just did that. And then I didn't say my line correctly or anything. I messed up everything, but I ended up selling a vacuum cleaner. I made $600 and I thought, wow, why doesn't the whole world do this? So that was breaking through a terror barrier. But more importantly, they introduced me to a book called Think and Grow Rich. And it was the
mm,
first time in my life I had ever heard of the word goal. I never knew what a goal was. I didn't
mm.
know that successful people set goals and made plans and persevered through obstacles. So I got halfway done reading Think and Grow Rich. And where my mind went was, if I knew the formula for success when I was a kid, I never would have done all these stupid things as a teenager. So I'm running over to my dad's house and I go, I don't know how, Dad, but I'm going to find a way to empower all kids to know their greatness by the age of 12.
Mm.
And I'd never accomplished anything in my life. And he's just like, that's nice, dear. But I became addicted to personal development. But growing up the way that I did, it took me nearly 10 years just to believe in myself.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. You had all
yeah,
those limiting beliefs, right? All
uh,
those things of I can't, or you weren't successful the first time, and people jumping on that. Oh, see, you can't do that. You can't do that. Look, we've all been there, right? I've kind of coined it. I've talked about it. That icta disease. I know that already. And people start telling you those stories.
yep.
Yeah, I know it already. And you feed that. And then the opposite is when you have all the resources, you have to use them. So, what resources did you find when you started making that decision with your dad? When you spoke to your dad?
I showed up to every single 9 a.m. rah meeting. I took in everything they said. Selling vacuum cleaners, they said if you memorize 100 clincher questions, so if you pulled 100 dirt pads and you ask questions for a whole hour, chances are you'll sell a vacuum cleaner. And so I just did what they told me to do, and I sold a lot of vacuum cleaners, and then I thought, well, I'll sell cars, and I got good at sales. So I started network marketing in my late 20s, probably 28 years old, thinking that I knew how to sell and I was going to be rich in 6 months. Well, I went 3 years, Dave, without anyone coming to a meeting. I went to every training and I took in every story, and I knew that Thomas Edison failed 9,999 times to invent the light bulb and eventually succeeded. So I just thought, well, I can fail 9,999 times too to create success. And then I heard a story of a bamboo tree. And I heard that if you plant a seed of a bamboo tree 6 feet under the ground, you had to water that seed every single day for years before it ever broke ground. And so I just got up every day and worked, failed, worked, failed. But I kept thinking if I just kept watering, eventually it would break ground. But I didn't realize that the bamboo tree analogy was me. I was the bamboo tree. And if I kept working on me and I kept persevering, then eventually the miracles and wonders would take over, which is what Napoleon Hill talks about in his persistence chapter. And so yeah, I remember one time I was like, I have 16 people invited to the meeting, and I'm bragging, not one person showed up. But this one night, 5 people were invited to the meeting, 5 people showed up, and they all signed up, and I was running around the lounge high-fiving everybody. I was so
Yeah.
excited.
Right. It's the action also. It's not only just the planting, it's not only the watering of the bamboo, but it's also the nurturing and to make sure, right? Because you could plant it and what are you feeding it with? So it really is, but also it's taking that risk, knowing some
Yes.
confidence within yourself to be able to do that and to adjust along the way. You know,
Bingo. How do you steer a bike? You have to get on it and pedal first. You have to take action first. How do you become great? Well, before you can be great, you got to be good, and before you can be good, you got to be bad, and before you can even be bad, you just got to try. Now, keep in mind, my whole dream, the whole reason I was doing personal development was because I thought I needed to become rich and famous so I could go to junior high schools and teach kids about goals, right? So, anyway,
it
18
sounds
years
so
after
nice.
that
Yeah.
dream, I ended up being a mom. I had 4 kids between the ages of 6 and 12. I had pushed through in network marketing, learned how to do it, learned how to believe in myself, went top 10 in the world. That company went bankrupt. So a year later, I was asked to head up another team and launch it into Canada. So I did that again, went top 10 in the world. So here I was living in this big house, living the big financial dream, thinking I wanted to give my kids this beautiful life. And I worked really hard for it. But my kids were all being diagnosed with mental health issues, severe ODD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, and nothing was working to get cooperation in my home. It was total chaos. So I was speaking in front of the room saying, "You were born perfect with pure potential to do anything you decide to do." And then I was going home and crying in my bathroom like a big failure as a mother. It was horrible. There were no solutions. The only solutions was to put my kid in a glass room, a behavioral room, medication and therapy, and there was nowhere else to go. But I was so personally developed at this time. I thought we're all created in the image of our creator. How could God give me sick kids? It never resonated in my soul. And so one day I do remember the day I was crying in my bathroom, literally praying to God, like maybe being a grandma would be easier than this. So I was wishing my parenting life away. And my kids were only 6, 9, 11, and 12. My 12-year-old wouldn't even let me touch him on the back. I'm going to cry
Wow.
because it was just such a horrific place to be when you give everything to these kids and you give up really your life to give them a
Sure.
good life, and then they hate you. And I couldn't figure out why. And I ended up meeting a gentleman named Thomas Liotta, he's my husband now, but he
Yep.
wasn't when I met him. And the only reason we connected is because he had a radio show and I thought I could get famous being on his radio show. And I still thought I could teach kids about goals, but was I teaching my kids at home about goals? No,
Right.
I wasn't, because I was following all of the parenting, books, and I was using timeouts and takeaways and trying to discipline them. And anyway, I was completely lost. And when I got to know Tom, he was so brilliant, working with me, preparing me for his radio show. And I thought I knew everything. Of course, I'd been in personal
Right. You read
development
you
for
read
18
books, right?
years.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
read books. I'm good.
I read books. I speak at the front of the room. What can this guy teach me? But I had a couple of transformative moments with him, and I ended up on the phone one day with him, and I was thinking in my head, you don't need anybody to help you put this workshop together. But my mouth was going, would you like to come to Canada and help me put a workshop together for entrepreneurs to believe in themselves more? And he just said, sure. And I'm like, oh, great. So now I got to explain to everybody I'm working with that I invited this strange guy into our deal for I don't know why. And I ended up seeing him with my kids. And David, it was incredible. He spoke to my kids and used the exact same language that I had been taught to run my sales teams. I had over 17,000 people in my team. Number one, I knew if I did too much for my team, they would never rise up and become independent, but I did way too much for my kids.
Hmm.
I knew that a burning desire is the starting point of all achievement, but I gave my kids an easy life. I gave them everything they ever wanted to make them happy. So I was breaking some really big time rules, but he didn't. And so about the third time I saw him with my kids, and he was talking to them about goals, and he was making these plans for them, and they were they were doing things. I mean, I couldn't get them to help me carrying groceries if I was lying on the sidewalk having a heart attack, but they wouldn't stop cleaning the truck and just things because he made them feel important. And I thought, wow, you can parent with goals.
Yeah. Well, right, and that's what it is. All these things apply all over the place, and we rush at times for to label everything, and
Yeah.
and labeling, kind of holds everybody back. And I mean, there are certain things that not everybody does the same things. Everybody has needs, and I get that because between my own kids and my family. So like we're and myself. I mean, I'm in that group. uh,
Sure, me too. I was oppositional defiant disorder and ADHD, but what does that mean?
yeah, but that's right. That doesn't mean you should pack it in, right?
No.
It's learning how to play the game by the rules, and your rules are different than others. So how did you start adjusting? I guess with Tom, you started adjusting. It's great having kids because you get to test some of the theories out with real life and not have to risk, obviously because we want the best for our kids anyway.
Yep. We want the best for our kids. And by the way, I had two boys and two girls. So I had the boys and the girls.
There you
And
go. You had a perfect test
I have
scenario.
a perfect testimony. The first thing that I did was when I realized that desire, like I knew this in my business life. But when it clicked, that desire of the heart is what gives us a zest for life. It's what internally motivates us to engage in learning life
Mhm.
skills. I shut off what I call the home welfare system. I just said, hey, you know what? You have a desire. Every time I give you something for free, it's like taking a blanket and smothering the fire. And that's what we're doing when we give our kids stuff that they haven't earned. So I got that right away. Moving forward, anything you guys want above basic food, clothes, and shelter, you have the privilege to earn. That includes sitting in my living room, watching TV, internet. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? This is going to sound really mean and really counterintuitive, but brown sugar on oatmeal, a privilege or a right?
It's a privilege.
Yes, sir. It's a privilege. So I figured out that they loved goals. It motivated them. My 10-year-old daughter and her friend were cleaning the kitchen one morning, sweeping the floor, and making me breakfast in bed to earn a sleepover. It
Mm.
was like, what? I could have been doing this the whole time. I didn't have anything to study. There was nothing in the whole world that taught parenting through goal based, proactive attention except for Tom. So I would phone Tom and go, hey, my kids were supposed to be doing their chores. I came home and they're lying all over the couch watching TV. What do I say? And he'd say, go in the other room and ask them, hey guys, what should we be doing right now? So I go, oh, okay. I'd write it on a sticky note, paste it on my computer, go to the other room. Hey guys, what should we be doing right now? I don't know, deer in the headlights, and I'd have to go run back into the other room. They just said, I don't know. Now what do I say? And he goes, I know you don't know, but if you had to guess, what would the answer be? And they all go, our chores. And the TV went off, and they all got up and they did their chores. And I thought, could it be this simple? And you see, the question gave them a sense of ownership. The question gave them a sense of autonomy. And I started to begin to include them in life. So when we would go camping, they would pack their own bags. And I remember they all packed their own bags and I double checked the bags. Because isn't that what we do as mothers?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've never been a mother.
or as
I have been because a lot of people call me mother at time, but
especially mothers,
yeah.
right? Dads would be like, he's fine. But especially mothers, right? We double checked the bags. And I thought, well, it might get cold. So I put an extra sweater in my son's bag. Remember the 12-year-old I said didn't
Yep.
like me?
Yep.
We get camping and he finds the extra sweater in his bag and he goes, who put the sweater in here? And I'm like, I did. I thought you might need it. It might get cold. And he was so mad at me. that I didn't trust him to pack his own bag and to take care of himself. And you know what? He never used the sweater. He sat around the campfire with a blanket. He took care of himself and he wanted, just like me, wanting my mom to see me for me and
Right.
not tell me to be a certain way so then she could love me. And I was doing the same thing to my kids. And it's been quite a journey, but that's where I
Well,
started. I just shut off the welfare system.
yeah. So how do you identify that, right? Because as parents, right, we do want to try to do better than our parents. I've always said, well, I'm better than my dad, and but the bar is set low there, so that shouldn't have been my low. That shouldn't have been my bar. I mean, but he's also taught me a lot of great things after he died. Like I always say, the methods he taught me were the actions were fine, but the way he tried to teach me, the methods of teaching were not necessarily the best way. But how do we do better? I mean, that's where I've struggled at times, with teenage girls, and still at times, I'm better now than I'd been. But what do we tell other parents going through this?
This is difficult because I mean, how many hundreds of parenting books are out there? And I did the same thing. I want to be better than my mom. So what did I do? I started reading the parenting books, and then the parenting books just caused more trouble because I think everybody's done the best they can with what they know. But what we
Mhm.
have to understand is that the whole authoritative parenting movement took one ingredient out of authoritarian parenting, where they used to beat the kids. They took one ingredient out and replaced it with a whole bunch of theories. We shouldn't be beating our children. They actually require a massive amount of attention. So lavish them with attention. And when they do something you don't like, come in and take something away. The problem is that children aren't born like spiders with spider web making 101 abilities,
Right.
right? Like a bunny is born, they know where to find their food. A human baby is born, they have no idea, and we have to teach them how to latch. So every single thing that we want our children to know, be, do, and have, they must be taught, and not through words. They have to be shown.
Hmm.
Monkey see, monkey do, children mimic you. So they don't learn by the words you say, they learn by watching you. And gosh, we got to take the batteries out from this whole reactive negative consequence, flip the batteries around, start studying leadership books, right?
Mm.
Atomic habits, the science of getting rich. Like, start reading level 5 leadership books from John Maxwell. Of course, get my book, Learn to Speak Kid, because all we did was we took the personal development world and we brought it to parenting for the first time in the history of the world, right? So so what I'm saying right now is going to sound like French to most people because you've never ever parented this way before. We've been handed a dull axe and asked to go chop down a forest, and it's not working. But the definition of insanity is just continuing to do the same things again and again, expecting different results. Yesterday, I asked Claude, how many babies between the ages of 0 and 2 are currently being medicated for behavior?
Mm.
Claude came back and said, Bonnie, the answer is staggering and terrifying. Over 500,000 children between the ages of 0 and 5 are being prescribed psychostimulants and antidepressants. And here's why. From the time a baby can move, the first word we teach them is the word no. You can't go to the stairs. It's dangerous. No. Don't touch the stove. No. Give me that lighter. Can I go to a party? Absolutely, over my dead body. A baby will hear the word no 400 times more than they hear an affirmative. And when a baby is 1 years old, like reaching for a toy or crawling to the stairs, and we go, no, 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 you can't use the stairs. Only I can use the stairs. Right then, we plant a seed of unworthiness in our baby. And then by the time they're 2, we call them what? Terrible. We
Right.
call them
Terrible too.
terrible twos.
Right.
Don't hit your sister. No, no, don't touch the cat like that. Now, if you're a little genius spirit living in a physical body with zero neural pathways, no idea how the world works. And you're constantly told as your like physical self is prepared to learn to walk, crawl up and down those stairs, and you're physically told, no, you can't. Inside the soul of this little baby is like, well, my instinct desire must be wrong. Every time I do something, it's wrong. They go, they spill, they play with their food, and we put them in a timeout. Well, I was just driven to play with my food. I'm learning about the world, and now I'm sitting on the stairs, and I have no idea why. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. There is a level of educating and teaching them what to do, right? Teaching us also what to do as well.
Yeah, like we need
That
to be sitting
that's the
on.
right.
Yeah,
That's the
go
trick.
ahead.
Like when I go back to my dad, like the lessons were true. They, that I won't agree with. That's why I say he got smarter when he died. But the truth, his methods weren't good, right? It was that authoritative piece,
Authoritarian, probably, or
and
authoritative, probably. Or sorry,
yeah, no,
authoritarian. He was probably very hard on you.
yeah, and that caused other things. But when I look at so now I've done a deep dive, like between myself and things like that to make sure I'm breaking the patterns, and that's but not everybody does that.
Well, a human being is only as good as what they've been taught,
Right.
right? Because like I said, we're not born with instincts. So we have to learn everything and we get to choose who we are going to listen to. And what I'm bringing awareness to is you can never take a negative, like the baby heading toward the stairs for the fifth time today. They're trying to tell you, I'm ready to learn about this, and we're
Right.
trying to protect them. And so, we've got to take the time to look at our children through new lenses. Look at them like this is a little genius looking to embrace their own uniqueness. They need to learn about the world. And so, my job for this whole week is to sit with that baby on the stairs and teach them how to go up and down safely. You do that for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. You'll have a 9-month-old baby crawling up and down those stairs faster than you can blink, and they'll be so proud of themselves.
Right.
And
I
that's the
I,
beginning point.
I remember doing that with one of my daughters. We had this camel right at the play park. It was a cement camel, and she wanted to climb up to the top, and I let her do it. And one time she fell, and I did. It's one of the few times I did. I wasn't as overprotective, but I was there with her. And then when she eventually got up to the top, and she climbed, and she was so proud of herself, right? But but it's scary as parents. So I'll it's tough. Nobody
Yep,
wants to scrape those legs and things like that. But it happens. I mean, that's why when I taught them how to ride a bicycle, I was like, just keep going. You have to keep pedaling. It doesn't work. It does work, but you haven't done it yet. Put the
correct.
effort in, and but it's so
Correct.
hard. How do we as parents, you know, protect them a little bit, but also let them skin their knees?
Well, we embrace our role as parents. When Tom asked me that question, I was like, make them happy? Oh no, that's not it. To protect them? Oh no, no, that's not it. To buy them things? No. To love them? He goes, well, your job's already done. And I'm like, I don't know how to describe my role as a parent. And he goes, well, your role is to prepare them for life,
Right.
prepare them for the world. They're going to fall down. They're going to scrape their knee. But they want to, right? Like they want to experience life. So the only way that they can learn to not fall down is to fall down and then learn not to do it again next time. So, with that being said, do we take our 2-year-old granddaughter to the park and just let her go to the top all by herself right now? No, but
Right.
she thinks she is,
Right.
right? We let her lead the way. We are with her until she masters those stairs, until she masters that slide. And it only took one time to fly off the slide for her to know how to slow herself down. Now she's 3 and she's like a 6-year-old when we go to the park. She's so agile because we've just given her the freedom to be her,
Right.
and she's so
You've taught her.
confident.
Yeah, you've taught her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so
Yeah.
okay. So another question, just while we're asking. when you have those oppositional kids, right? Especially this generation, everybody, gets offended so quickly, and I'm just going to do it. I'm entitled to do it.
Mm,
Uh, yeah.
mm,
What do
yeah.
you, how do you push back, right? And it's not maybe entitled is the wrong word, but it's I want to do it. I'm allowed to do it. They've learned the rules because they've chat GPT'd the rules. If there's no rule, there's no rule that says I can't do this, and then they do it.
Um, Everything that your child is right now, oh God, people are going to want to punch me in the face, but it's the truth, and the truth will set us free. So, everything your child is right now, you've trained him to be that way. And it's not our fault, because the whole idea of like, you need to be your child's emotional regulator.
Mhm.
Uh, what? No. Babies are born with one language. They cry. And our job is to transition the cry to words. And so the 2 year old might maybe is crying, and this is where it begins. And I'm going to get to the 7 year old. I'm going to tell you a story about the 7 year old on the swing in a minute. Um, but a 2 year old that continues to cry, and we're saying, use your words. I promise if they knew the words to use, they would use them. And I fell into this trap too. I am no better than any other parent. You think when they start saying words that they can understand. And we're also taught through parenting experts that we should get on their eye level and explain to them why that rule's in place or why what they've done was wrong. But the same parenting experts that give you that advice will tell you that children do not have the ability to even think abstract till at least the age of 13. And that's if we have been working consciously to help them develop critical thinking. So I'm going to answer your question about pushback, but here's the example from the swing. I was at the park one day. The 7 or 8 year old boy's on the swing. The swing slows down. Mom, push me. Like he's yelling at his mom to push him on the swing. And she's like, oh, okay. And she comes and pushes him on the swing. What mom needs to do in that moment is go, Mom, would you push me on the swing, please?
Right.
Not even giving him in trouble, because nobody's ever taken the time to sit and give him the words. And when our toddler, none of my toddlers got this experience, only my granddaughter, because, now I can speak
Right.
kid. But when she's sitting at the table and whining because she wants the chair pulled in, I'll just go, Grandma. And she'll go, Grandma, you help me, please. And she'll go, you help me, please. And I'll push her in, and then we have peace. But
Right.
any other way, ignoring her, getting mad at her would cause a meltdown, and we'd have terrible twos. That's how fragile it is. That's every word, every thought, every action parents take with their kid matters. So now you've got an 8 year old yelling at you to push them on the swing, throwing desks in the classroom. This is a child who was told no 400 times a day at the age of 2 that has never progressed. Their body has gotten bigger. Their neural pathways have not developed because we've done too much for them. We've offered negative consequences, and we've missed the most important thing that gives a human being a zest for life. Do you know what that is?
A reason.
Yeah, a why. Yeah, a goal. Well, you have to do that because I said so. You see, humans weren't born like robots. Babies don't come out naturally to go, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll just do what you tell me to. So the kids that are oppositional defiant disorder, or any other of the 297 disorders being placed on children right
Right.
now,
Yeah, everybody has a label, but
everybody has a label. And instead of looking at what's wrong with our kids, we must begin to ask the question, what life skill does my child need? Instead of focusing on emotional dysregulation, your child needs to practice self control. And they're not going to practice self control if every day you're in opposition and you're getting mad and I'm taking your phone, because all they're going to learn is that now they can talk to you like that and take your stuff because they mimic. So if you come in and you take their phone, they're going to come in and they're going to take your phone, and then they're going to get in trouble. And then it just causes this hamster wheel that can go on for your whole life if you don't wake up to it.
Yeah, and that well, that's the whole thing is you have to be observant. So how as parents should we become more observant?
Well, we stop providing everything for free and we take a step back and we watch what they do. A 6 year old reaches for a lighter. We watch what they do and we go, oh, I see you're interested in the lighter. What do you like about the lighter? Have you ever seen a lighter? Well, I like fire. It's so pretty. Can I show you how to light the candle? Now, when we use the lighter, we use it to light the candle only, and the lighter lives right here. So now you give the child the opportunity to light the candle and put the lighter right there. And it's proactive and it's positive, and you've breathed life and you trust them and you believe in them. They'll never pick up that lighter, only to light the candle and put it back. Opposite. No, no, we don't play with lighters. You take the lighter. Now you're not looking one day. They sneak the lighter, they play with the lighter, and they set the house on fire. They're going to do it. They're going to be
Well,
curious about life. Whether you teach them or not, they're going to do it.
that was my approach with my girls. I
Mm,
remember, they were 8 and 9, and we were living in a house with some older girls as well. So I got them the American Girl, your body and things like that, and got yelled at by discussed heavily that they're too young, and I'm like, no, they need to know, like because you don't know, right? There's no ticking time bomb. I don't get to shake them and go, no, we're still there, um, and they need to know all the information that I have. I mean, with all
yeah.
the conversations, when I was there, and in fact, I was the one who showed my wife's uh daughter, about condoms and stuff like that. I was like, look, something's gonna happen, and are you are
Yeah.
you are you prepared? That was one of the questions. One of the parenting books that I did read is like, are you prepared for the repercussions of you not saying something? Are you that embarrassed or whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not ready. And I look forward to it when it's the appropriate time. But hell no, um, because you want it in a way, and now I'm prepared uh, for a lot of things, but because I've done the work to see things differently and to ask the right questions, use the right language,
Yeah.
and even when my youngest, says, I don't know what it feels like. I'm like, okay, so tell me, that's when I always go. Tell me what it sounds like, feels like, smells like. Give me a different language so we can have that ability to communicate. Because I know what you say. If you say it's orange, okay, if you're angry and orange, then okay, then I understand orange is not a color that at least then we can figure out what that language is.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? I mean, I know how I've done it, but you're the expert on language.
Yeah.
Speaking kids speak.
It takes some practice, it takes some study, just like anything else. But the biggest thing is we can go back and remember what it was like to be a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
They cannot at all fast forward and know what it's like to be a 35 or a 40-year-old with three kids and a house and bills and appointments and all these things. The only way that a child authentically learns about life is to personally experience it. So after I connected with Tom and I ended up with like 140 sticky notes all over my office, and I said, you have a total philosophy here. There are 12 links to a chain, and we call them the 12 links of creating champions for life. And the first one is knowing your role as a parent. So instead of constantly correcting our children in the moment for life skills they've never been shown, we start to write lists. Mom, can I have a cookie? Ooh, you want a cookie? What's your favorite kind of cookie? Now, in this moment, I have no intention of giving them a cookie. They're not asking me to give them a cookie. They're telling me the desires of their
Right.
heart. And my job is to know what they want, I'm gonna go a cookie. I love cookies. Those chocolate ones? Ooh, those chocolate ones. And then even just validating, sometimes they'll just carry on and go on with their life because they just wanted to be heard.
Hmm.
But secondly, I'm going to show them how they can earn those cookies. By eating their vegetables or whatever it is that the parents want. So, parent, what is your goal? What do you want for your kids to do? Well, I want them to wake up at 6:15 and I want them to be ready at the door by 7:30 where they got to eat their breakfast. You know exactly what you want. Right now, we know what we want. The kids have no clue. So we're up in the morning going, we're going to be late. Hurry up, put that iPad away. And the kids are running around in a circle. No clue, no training. So we got to think like fire drill. If there was a fire in the house, do we practice a fire drill or do we all react in the moment that a fire comes, right? Getting ready in the morning is no different than a fire drill. But if you give them proactive attention, okay, we're going to role play morning and this is how to make your cookie show up. Or we're going to role play morning and this is how iPad time shows up after school today. They'll have a why. They'll be internally motivated to role play. They will feel loved because they're getting attention by you and it's positive and it's proactive, not this reactive correcting because they just don't know. They just are little genius spirits who don't know any better. The second link to the chain is to understand your child doesn't see the world the way you do. They're very
Hmm.
logical. They're very self-centered. They don't care about your lectures. They don't get it. They hear womp 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 womp. Did you ever
Yep.
see Charlie Brown?
Charlie Brown, right? Yep.
There was so much truth in Charlie Brown as the teacher's going bah, 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 and the kids are like wah, wah, wah. That's how the kids hear us. They care about one thing, their why, their goals, their desires. That's it. And number three is creating the right environment. So we stop giving them everything for free and we create an environment that causes them to rise. We got to make the transition from crying to talking to doing to experiencing. It's our job to create the environment for them to transition from crying to actually using their words. And we need to give them the words to use. Next, we guide their behavior. We've been taught that all children are born defiant and need to be whipped into shape, right? They need to be disciplined
Yep.
into compliance. But we're missing the opposite equation that all children were born in the image of the creator. So we all have beautiful, positive energy in us, and we all have negative, rebellious energy in us. And how we parent them is going to pull out the greatness or pull out the rebellion. The rod, we always hear, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yep.
First of all, that statement was never in the Bible. The Bible says, those who spareth the rod hateth their children. But the rod was used to guide the sheep in the direction they should go. It was never meant to beat the sheep. So,
Right.
negative plus negative will always equal a negative. That's why $247 billion is being spent right now medicating kids, well, and sending them to therapy and treatment centers and whatnot. And that number grows every year. When we make this shift from punishing to guiding, that number will start to drop. We'll stop medicating our babies. There's over 106,000 babies between 0 and 1 prescribed antidepressants today.
Yeah, when I hear those numbers, it saddens me so much because
Yeah.
um
I like bawled my
what
eyes out when I read that
yeah,
yesterday. I just started insta crying because it's so heartbreaking when the answer is so simple.
yeah, while I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, uh I hate medicine. When I need it, fine. When you need it, that is fine. It is appropriate. I mean, I just recently had some heart situation, and I was like, "When do I get off the medicine?" And they're like, "Oh no, no." I'm like, "Oh no, no, we're gonna get off the medication." That
Right.
again, they told me change my diet. I was like, done, and they didn't believe me. They didn't. They were like, "No, no, you really have to change your diet." I'm like, "It's done. Like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I hear you. This was it was a heart situation. Like, you
Uh-huh.
don't have minor heart surgery. Like, I had a stent put in. Which
Wow.
like so many other people were like, well, I've had five, I've had this. I'm like, okay, but all I needed was one. You I got the lesson. The lesson I learned the lesson differently,
Yeah.
and it's done. And I think that's what we need to do with our as parents, and also give ourselves grace. That's the other
Yeah,
part is,
thank you.
you know, the things I didn't know, and the things I wasn't
Right.
good at because I wasn't shown.
That's right.
Modeling, a lot of my poor habits were modeling, but what I'm also trying to teach my kids is that the poor habits that I had, once I became aware of them, I worked damn straight to get it out.
Yeah. I was reading the Atomic Habits book a couple months ago, and like right there in the beginning, probably less than a third into the book, humans are run by habits. We develop neural pathways, and that's how we live. So a kid who screams and throws things all the time has developed a habit. But he clearly says that if you want to develop a new habit, give up an old habit for a new habit, again, we go back to the why. Your why. You've got to have a motivator that's bigger than the habit to head towards. And that's what we're talking about. All these ODD kids and the ones that are freaking out, they're just like they're in a box of conformity going, "See me. Show me. I want to be like you and do what you do." And nobody's taking the time to show me because I'm just always in trouble. So they're literally like, I don't know, like picture somebody whose head's being held underwater and they're drowning. They're going to flap and do whatever they can to get you off so they can survive. And these children are just surviving. And no doctor, no therapist, no psychiatrist in the world can help your child authentically from the inside out. That is up to us. It's up to us, the parents. But I'm so glad that you said to give ourselves grace because that's all we can do. I forgive myself, but I still cry when I talk to my adult children for the things that I did when they were little, and I'm emotional right now. But I forgive myself because I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. But when
Right.
I saw the open window and I saw that I could develop them, I saw that I could help them become independent beings. I let go of whether they loved me or not. I mean, gosh, do I want them to love me? Yeah, of course. But more than that, I want them to love themselves. I want them to leave my house and go live a beautiful, successful life without me. And if they can do that, I can sleep at night. I can be happy. And they are. So I'm so grateful for this journey. But the other side is the side effect of guiding behavior and by goal power and by always showing them the way to go, the side effect is you become their greatest hero in the world. And so now I've got a 21-year-old, a 24, 26, and 27. And I feel like I am the center of this beautiful universe of children who just adore me. And it's not because I went out of my way to make them happy. It's because I stopped trying to make them happy and I became their leader and someone they can respect until the point they could stand there and look at me and go, you know what, mom? I actually am smart. And my 12-year-old that hated me hated himself because
Right.
when he turned 17, and he took a bus to go write his final exams, and I had by then created the environment where he could choose his own outcome. He come back from his exam and he stood there and he goes, I actually am smart, mom. I realized that just today. And I went, that's all you're going to live a great life. That's all I ever wanted for you. And he's just a beautiful man now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's where my oldest had just graduated college, and she got a job right away, and every now and then she'll come over and we have a nice conversation, and
That's beautiful.
we're getting there, and it's really, you know, and that's where I've always operated. So even when I help them, I try to think of what I was doing and how I thought at their ages. And
Yeah.
that's why, when I have all the conversations, I go, I don't care if it makes you feel yucky. I go, guess what? Somebody's gonna have the conversation. That was one of the conversations I had with a girlfriend's brother when I was young enough. He was like, I'm gonna teach you. He goes, you get to make a decision afterward. And as long as you have the right information, then we're all good. We're all okay. And I respected that so much. And I knew when it was my time to do that, believe me, I want to put my head in the, in the, garbage as well, but
Hmm.
it's not going to help me.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to step up a lot better.
Yeah. Well, we just need the right information. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're
That's it.
fueling your mind with all the wrong information and you're chopping down the forest with a dull axe, well, you're just going to keep chopping the forest with a dull axe. That's parenting with the wrong tools. Negative plus negative will never give you the parenting life of your dreams. So, positive. A child says, I want a video game. They're happy, they're excited. That's a positive. It's a goal. It's good to have goals. Parent approved plan. When you come home every day with a positive report from your teacher, 5 days in a row, you can make your video game show up. Now you have a goal with a parent approved plan. The child can work the goal. The teacher's
Right.
happy, the mom's happy, the kid's happy, the game shows up, and you can look at your kid and go, who made that show up? I did.
Right.
What did you do to make that show up? Well, I went to school every day this week and I got all my work done and I did that because I had a goal. Oh my God. The whole world will change. It's life changing.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's where you do, that's where some of the theory is, you have to explain to them. You have to give them the boundaries. Yeah, educate them on what the
Yes.
boundaries are
Yeah.
and how to achieve it. Not just, don't do that, but still get to the levels of what you do. You have to, everything is a guide. We need guides. I mean, even as parents,
Yes.
that's why, as parents, we also need to talk to people. Ask other parents, what did you do? How do you do this? And, because we're not always there and we don't always see, it's the blind spots. There's so much that happens in the blind spots that they trip us up.
Yeah, and the worst part, we don't want to be the blind leading the blind off the edge of the cliff either.
Right.
So you want to find somebody who's been where you are and now has what you want. If it's experience, not textbooks that we want to start learning from.
Right.
And I want to highlight something. Telling a child when you do this, you can make your goal show up, not a goal I chose for you. That's called a bribe.
Hmm.
But when a child asks specifically for something, I want a cell phone. I'd love for you to have a cell phone. When you do this, you can make that show up, is not the same as you didn't do good this week, so you can't have that.
Mm.
Because children cannot think abstract. They can't take that negative statement and go, oh, so if I do this, I do get that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's how you reinforce and how you communicate it and how it moves through the different scenarios. And yet, and again, as a parent, you have to have a goal. What is your goal when you're preparing for them, right? You mentioned that, and you don't have the goal. If you can't see the goal for you, how are you gonna be asking your kid? It's like walking through that forest before you chop the tree. You know, are you looking for the tallest tree? Are you looking for the smallest tree? Start working with
Yeah.
small trees, right? Give them the
Right.
goal and explain to them what they need to do.
And show them through
Yep.
role play. Role play. This is how you put your shoe in the closet, and then you put the shoes back on the floor. Can you show me? Then they'll take the shoes and put them in the closet. Now they have the life skill. And unless you actually go through that routine, this is how you make a bed. Mess it all up, have them repeat it till they can do it to your standards. Parents, children are so much more capable than we ever give them credit for. They can do things just as good as you can. They just need what, 100 reps? They need to do it. They need to
Yep.
do it until they can do it. And as long as you're role playing and acting, analyzing, and adjusting, and you're on their side, oh man, your kids are going to come to life. Your ODD kid is going to become the most leader, outstanding champion kid on the block. It's amazing because the pendulum swings from negative to positive. There's a law of polarity, the equal and opposite exists.
Hmm.
It's a universal principle. We got to know that is true for our children too. They were not born defective. They're not broken.
Nope.
They're not sick. Oh, but I read something earlier. It's from scripture. It's from Proverbs, but it says it basically says that a desire denied causes the heart to be broken.
Mm,
So we got to stop saying no and start figuring out how we can say yes. And even if it's a 11-year-old wants a belly button ring, I would love for you to have a belly button ring. Who do you know who has a belly button ring? And then how old do you need to be to get one without a parent's signature? 16. Gosh, I guess we'll talk about it again when you're 16. Okay.
right. That's why my again, my oldest was at 18. I go, I go, I'm not against it, but I'm also not going to provide the services for it. You
Right.
know, like, like I'll tell you why. And that's one of those things.
Yeah.
Now we're getting close to the end of the episode, and I love having people walk into the magic garden, give a little piece of advice. Like a seed that might grow right now, like Jack and the Beanstalk, or it might take a little more time and needs a little nurturing, like the bamboo story you told us earlier. Do you have
Mm.
anything like that right now that you might think about offering up for advice?
I just want to say that champions are not born, they are created. So when we think about Tiger Woods or Wayne Gretzky or even Oprah, whatever you think about Oprah, uh, they weren't born that way. They are people who fell down and got up 10,000 times, just
Hmm.
like Edison failing 9,999 times to invent the light bulb, which means that children with mental health disorders were not born that way either. They were created. So, my advice right now is we have been parenting like a ship without a rudder in the ocean, and we're just reacting, and being thrown around like with the waves. I want you to put your rudder on the ship and start thinking into greatness with your children. Start to parent with intention. Make a list of all the life skills your child needs to learn between the ages of 0 and 18 and begin to work that list just like you would if you were running a business and you had a daily checklist. Do they know how to get your attention in a positive way? Do they know how to stand at attention at the customer service? Do they know how to pour their own milk? Everything that you want them to be, do, and have, they must learn. And so when we begin to stop parenting by default and we start to parent with intention, we will start creating brand new, positive, magical heaven results.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. How can everybody find you, Bonnie?
Creatingchampionsforlife.com is my website, and you can find anything you ever want there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for all
Yeah.
the advice and the conversation. I can't wait to listen to it again because I know there's so many hidden gems in there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, too, for giving me the opportunity to share. I love this time. You're a great host.
Well,
Appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
And everybody, I want to offer you peace and love as your foundation, and start there. You know the definition of that for you. And when you're bringing a bat, bring those awesome thoughts like Bonnie brought for us. And I hope you hit your sweet spot.
Me
Thanks a
too.
lot, and have a great day.